This is Icy Fresh out here, getting some fresh air. And today I'm going to talk about In the Wind. And what do I mean by that? Well, there are a couple verses that I could talk about, but I'm going to keep it short by just reading most of it, or taking out some of the verses and just reading one verse. So it's not super long. And it's definitely not going to be long, maybe 7 minutes. It's going to be very short. But I called this In the Wind. So when I catch the wind, I can elevate myself to greater heights. God's wind lifts me up to a different view, to recasting my vision of the waiting. Or so I can recast my vision of the waiting. So when I catch the wind, I'm talking about God's wind, not the normal kind. The wind that can lift me up and elevate me to greater heights, so I can change the view and recast my vision of the time that I'm waiting. So I get my energy when I get a glimpse of God's view and a sense of how powerful God is in the world. And in Exodus 19:4-5 says, where is it? Exodus 19:4-5 says, "You yourself have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all peoples, for all the earth is mine." So in Egypt, basically, they were not giving thanks to God, or they were ungrateful for what God has done in their life. But God has given me the wind so I can soar with God to have freedom and breakthrough. So do you have a perspective that is clouding your view of what God has already done, so you depend on your own strength to understand instead of God's wisdom and plan? And again, do you have a perspective that is clouding your view of what God has already done in your life, so instead you depend on your own strength to understand instead of God's wisdom and plan? So do you let fear block your eyes from any view of the good, just looking at your weakness instead of what you heard God say, refusing to trust and honor God in your life? So just wasting time in circles instead of soaring to new heights on God's strength, or just wasting your time going in circles instead of soaring to new heights on God's strength. You got to trust God enough to rely on Him, depending on His power to rise up and consider His perspective to soar above the difficult things. The only thing you need is to trust. So don't be trapped in fear, but rise up when you are waiting on God to stand on His power with the decision to trust. So maybe you have let fear lead you to put up a guard with God, so you don't end up disappointed. So maybe you need an encounter with God that will change your perspective in a worship service. The Spirit can work in you to shift your thoughts to see the bigger picture. God did not put me in a hallway. He put me in a room full of light, grace, and wonder, so I can run, sing, and shout, not holding my breath. I am the same person and season with two different perspectives? Are you okay with staying in the hallway living with a small perspective? So I have God to help me zoom out and see far beyond my lens, that there is more to the reality of my situation. So giants are big, the struggle is real, but will you be like an eagle navigating your life with ease and strength? So when you wait on God, He comes with the Spirit as a mighty wind and lifts you up to heights you could never achieve. So are you beating your wings or flapping your wings, trying to lift yourself up above the fray? God has a different strategy. Don't soar, but patiently wait on God when you catch the wind. You can spend your whole life flapping your wings to exhaustion, or trust that the wind will start. So waiting on God leads to discoveries we can never imagine, or discoveries that we can never imagine. So you can notice God's provision with a broader perspective, or see a wall, or see a lack in the weight. But we have a larger view that identifies what is hidden. So when you are led by the Spirit, so have you prayed about it? So trusting is the starting place. We need to wait on Him with expectation. And trust is a foundation to stand on His word. And last point here, when you see other people getting miracles, don't choose fear. So like I said, it wasn't going to be long, short. So in the wind, like I said, this is all from a book, so every chapter is kind of shorter. It all depends, but I think that is chapter 9. So I'm almost done with the book, and then I will see what other book I want to start, or I think I know which book I want to start after this one. So that's going to be that one. And then, yeah, so when you catch the wind, it's God's wind. In the breeze, because I can fly and soar above all my difficulties, because I got God on my side. He's the strength that I need, so I can feel relief from the stress that comes in my life, because I got no defeat, because I got a different perspective that's not the same, because I can see the bigger picture, like I said, because of God's provision, because of God's provision, I can see with God's provision, I can see the bigger picture. And no matter what situation I'm going through, I can see beyond my situation and see past my fears. I can see and have victory in my life, because I had an encounter with God that changed my perspective. Because the more I go to church, the more I pray, I have that encounter with God every time. So my perspective is changing. My perspective is evolving into something different. Instead of looking at face value, I look at what's underneath. Because of God's provision in my life, I look for the things that are underneath, not the things that are surface level. I look at what's under, instead of what's inwardly, or inwardly instead of outwardly. And God is good all the time. I'm out.